What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest, where we go through the latest Detroit Lions news. And there's actually a lot to talk about in this video. This is not going to be a short video. Well, we'll see how it goes. But we also have our injury report that's going to come out a little bit later today. Plus, we're going to be doing last second dose tonight. So make sure you guys stop in and check that out. We got a full schedule for today. So let's get it started.
Way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, and we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome, everybody, to a video. Glad you guys are here. And we got some Lions news. It's always a good time when you got some Lions news. And we got a lot of things to dive into. Yesterday was kind of the Jamie Collins day. And today we're going to start off with that as well a little bit. As Dan Campbell had his presser today. And he talked about Jamie Collins for a majority of the presser. Is it a presser or is it a... I don't know if it's a presser because it's not after. Either way, I'm just going to keep calling it that. We're going to dive into some of this Jamie Collins talk. I have some clips from what Dan Campbell said in his presser day. Plus, the Lions have made some roster moves. There's some shuffling that's going around. And there could be a big change on the horizon for this weekend, which may be a little bit concerning when we get to it. And just a couple notes here and there. Then we'll get to the injury report later today. But let's just get right into it. Let's start off with this Jamie Collins talk. Yesterday, we talked about it in the injury report, and we did a video on it later that night. Well, I was actually early in the morning by the time it came out. But we did get to hear from Dan Campbell today. Clips that have been used as kind of like a headline for Dan Campbell is saying that we have suitors. All right, so the Lions, they're looking for a trade for Jamie Collins. In his words, they do have suitors. He expects that he's going to be able to find a trade for Jamie Collins. Apparently, there's teams that are interested in Jamie, but they're not putting a timetable on when it has to be done. They said we'd like to have it done sooner rather than later, right? They want to make this thing happen, but they're not putting a timetable on it. They're probably not rushing it. They're looking for the best deal.
What we asked him to do, his attitude's been great, all right? Has nothing to do with any of that. Just felt like it was time for reduced role, and I have too much respect for him to do that, and we felt like it was time for Barnes and Reeves-Maybin to play more. This is really why we made the decision that we're making, trying to move forward. So I wish him the best of luck. We'll work through this, and time for Barnes and Reeves to go.
Why wait? You know, we're 2 games into the season. We've seen it for 2 games. And if we can progress, if we can move forward, if we can get better, you know, why wait?
You're going to grow, and you're going to try to get better as a team, as a unit, everything. You better do it now. And there again, I think this is best for Jamie as well. He gets a chance to go somewhere and do what he does, and you know, we're just in a different place.
No, this is a move that's got to be made. It's going to happen at some point. Let's just make it happen. Like we said, his trade value is much higher early in the season than would be later. Now, the Lions didn't discuss possibly, you know, doing some things to his contract to make it a little more appealing. According to Campbell, there are some suitors out there. Maybe when they're in talks, maybe they'll change up the contract by giving him a little bit of a bonus, take some off that base salary. That way teams are a little bit more interested. But according to Dan Campbell, it sounds like there is going to be a trade partner out there. I don't know what the Lions are going to get in return. They don't have to go grab a linebacker. Dan Campbell has stated that we're going to see more Derek Barnes, of course. He talked about his preseason aggressiveness and even the little stint we saw him in the 49ers game, which we dove into yesterday if you guys want to check out the film on that. And he did talk about Jalen Reeves-Maybin as well, who is obviously a top special teams player, right? He's been a baller there. They like Jalen. They brought him back this offseason.
Barnes, you saw it in the preseason, and then even the limited snaps that he got in San Francisco, you can see just his aggressive style. He plays lights out. He can run. He's going to have some growing pains. Things are going to come up, but he can make up for a lot just with his effort too, which he's done. Reeves is going to play too. He's going to help us on defense as well. Yeah, I mean that we've got packages for both.
He said, look, we have packages for both of these guys, so we'll probably mix some of them, but they also have packages for both of them on the field at the same time. And when we saw it in the preseason, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, a lot of times was the guy with the green dot out there with Derek Barnes. They can do that. We also saw the 3 inside linebacker sets last week with Jamie, Alex, Jalen Reeves-Maybin all on the field. And I think we could see a little bit of that this week, possibly for a little bit more speed. That way you get one less outside linebacker, you go with another inside linebacker, you get a little more speed on the field. And I think in that scenario, it would probably be Derek Barnes in the middle, probably be Alex and Jalen Reeves-Maybin. But those are the 2 guys that Dan Campbell anticipates to get much more snaps.
We're thinking about Beckett. We also signed Zach Wood. We got him from the practice squad with Chicago. So there's a chance he comes in and helps us on special teams right now. You know, he's also provides depth at linebacker. We're looking at him. We're looking at Wright as a tight end, Zylstra as a tight end for body types, that can help us on special teams, because that's where now we need the help, is to take a little bit off of Reeves and Barnes and special teams, because they're still going to have to be able to do that for us.
Campbell did bring up effort a lot when he was going through this presser. He brought up effort a lot, and when he was asked about maybe if there was a lack of effort from Jamie Collins, he's like, I don't really want to do that. I have too much respect for the guy, so he didn't go into it. He said they are in communication right now. They told him straight up what was going on, and he's not going to be practicing with the Lions until they get something done. He said we'll see how the week plays out. When he was asked if this was the last snap that he's played as a Lion, it's likely the last snap that he's played. We'll see how it plays out, but if he's not out there practicing, if he's not at practice with the Lions because they're probably trying to get a trade done, it's probably very unlikely that he plays this weekend, even if the trade hasn't went through yet. I think the Lions are just being patient, waiting for the best offer. Fortunately today, the Lions had to place Tyrell Williams on injury reserve, which is just awful news. A guy that took a big hit against the 49ers went out. He's standing on the sideline. We're thinking maybe he comes back off concussion protocol. It didn't really get better throughout the week, so we head into this week, and the first day Dan Campbell speaks to us, he's like, yeah, it really hasn't changed. His status is pretty much the same. We'll see where he's at tomorrow. And today, they have placed him on injury reserve, which means he's going to miss at least 3 weeks, man. I hate those big hits. So this is of course a very tough loss for the Lions. And now with that, it opens up a roster spot. So Detroit has went out and added a linebacker from the Chicago Bears practice squad to their 53-man roster. Now, this is a player that Dan Campbell brought up specifically as someone that could get some snaps this week, pretty much on special teams. They're looking for guys that can impact them on special teams. Jalen Reese-Maybin is an absolute beast on special teams. They still want to have both Derek and Reese-Maybin on special teams, but they want to take a little bit of the role away because they're going to be asking them to do more defensively. You don't want to wear the guys out, right? The tight end. And Zane Zylstra, the other tight end that they have on the practice squad, is guys that could potentially get some snaps at special teams in this week's game. But the linebacker they went out and grabbed from the Bears practice squad is Josh Woods. Now, Josh Woods has pretty much just been a special teams player in his career with the Chicago Bears. Interesting thing about Josh Woods is that he came out of the draft back in 2018 out of Maryland as a strong safety. So he came out as a safety, 6'1", just over 200 pounds. So he was definitely not built like a linebacker. At 4'6", 640, okay, it's a little bit slower for a safety, but you also only see 7 bench press reps. It's because he's only 200 pounds coming out of the draft. However, when he landed with Chicago in 2019, the Chicago Bears hired Mark DeLone, who is now our linebacker coach. And with Mark DeLone, they had him bulk up. He bulked up 30 pounds. He moved to the linebacker position. And he made the 53-man roster. Even this season, he made their 53-man roster. They ended up waiving him and adding him back to the practice squad because, of course, they brought in Brashad Perriman. So it's kind of weird how this all ties together. Even last season, we saw him play a little bit defensively. We saw him in multiple games. The most statistical production I think he had was against the Green Bay Packers in their final game of the season. I'm not saying he played great in those games, but you did see some speed. But the Lions don't seem like they're anticipating him to have to play defense. It's depth if they needed it, but for him, it's probably going to be more special teams. And according to Pro Football Focus, he was given an 89.4 PFF grade. Now, I did watch back. I saw him in the kick return coverage, so I know that he's out there. I didn't really get any clips of him making plays, but I know that he was out there, and apparently he earned a fantastic grade. And to be honest, I mean, the Lions have put together a strong special teams unit the last few years, at least in terms of coverage. And some of the plays you see guys like JRM making, Jerry Jacobs making, I mean, the Lions, they have a pretty high standard at special teams, at least in terms of punt and kickoff coverage. They've given up some big kickoffs, so obviously you want to limit those, but punt coverage specifically. So this will be an area that we could definitely see him play this week, and he gives us some more depth. So the Lions are now back to 5 linebackers as you throw also Pittman also into the mix. Dan Campbell didn't bring up Anthony Pittman. It sounds like it's going to be more JRM and more Derek Barnes that we see. There could be a little bit of Pittman. I don't know. He just didn't bring him up. And of course, then you have Alex to kind of round out that mix. So it's not like, UDFAs out of Maryland haven't had success in the NFL. One notable name, J.C. Jackson, who is with the New England Patriots. So for him to make a 53-man roster multiple times is a big deal. Even to play last season, he made it again this year. If it wasn't for Brashad Perriman getting cut by us, we may not have Josh Woods. Isn't that weird how that works out? So now he's with us. We'll see if he can make a big play against the Baltimore Ravens. If he's out there, maybe he does something huge. You never know. Special teams is a very important side of it. So that's kind of what's going on with the linebacker position. Now, we do have some other roster moves, and this one's probably the most unfortunate one to me, and that is that Austin Seibert has been put on the COVID reserve list. Okay, Okay, we haven't seen this a ton, so this really stinks to see it come up with our kicker. Like, that's not good. Everett's missed one field goal with us. You go back to the San Francisco game, he made his second one. He made his kicks against Green Bay. The one kick that he did have, we didn't attempt it. On the other one, we went for it on fourth down. And I would expect the Lions are probably going to continue to be aggressive if he's not able to play in Sunday's game against Baltimore. I don't know if Austin is vaccinated or if he's showing symptoms. Like, I don't know those ins and outs there. If he's vaccinated, it could be a 24-hour process, so he could be back for this weekend. So that's just something I kind of have to wait for. But I know Ryan Santoso is kind of battling with Joey Slight, and Joey Slight had a couple misses in the second and third preseason game. They didn't play Santoso in the second or third, but they went into week one with him as their starting kicker. And the Lions signed Ryan Santoso to the practice squad. They have now made him one of the 4 protected players for this week on the practice squad. So if Austin Seibert can't play, he will be our kicker for this week, and it's unfortunately very possible that that could happen. Carolina Panthers let go of Ryan Santoso to pick up Zane Gonzalez off our practice squad. So Zane Gonzalez is no longer with us, so now we're to Ryan Santoso. So it's almost like we made a trade in some ways. It's kind of like a straight-up trade. Now, Ryan Santoso does have some kickoff background, specifically in 2019 with Tennessee. He had 17 kickoffs. I'm sure we'll be fine there, but we know Seibert was holding down that role, so this will be something that he probably has to do. And when you look at his field goal attempts, he's only taken 2 field goal attempts in regular season games throughout his entire career since being brought in back in 2018 as an undrafted free agent out of Minnesota. Even back in college, he didn't kick field goals that much. Freshman year he did, sophomore year he did, junior and senior he did not. In his sophomore year, he was much better. He was 17 for 21, 31 for 31 on extra points. But in the NFL with the Panthers, in his first week, he was 2 for 2 on his field goals. They were both between 20 and 29 yards. His longest was 29 yards, but he did miss 1 extra point of the 2, which is obviously not a good thing. Seibert's also had some issues with extra points, so that's something to keep an eye on, but he's been good with us so far. However, late in week 1 of the preseason, he was 2 for 2 in that game, 9 total points, plus he made a 52-yard field goal, but it hit off the upright and it went in. It went in, but it doinked in, so yeah, it still counts as 3 points. Has had a ton of kicking experience in regular game situations. The Panthers clearly moved on for a reason. They brought in Zane Gonzalez, who was on our practice squad. See where that trust factor is at. I'm sure they're giving him a lot of reps in practice to see where it's at, but we'll see heading into this week. Finally, we have a couple of notes with the receiver position. So Tyrell Williams has been placed on injury reserved, as we mentioned. So now he won't be here this week. So you ask yourself, what will the receiver unit look like? Well, the Lions haven't made any additions to this spot. We know they added Geronimo Allison to practice squad once the injury showed up for Tyrell Williams. He was not active this week. He was just on the practice squad. Our 5 active receivers this week were Quintez Cephas, Khalif Raymond, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Trinity Benson, Tom Kennedy, and actually Kadero Hodge was also active. We went with 6 receivers. Hodge just didn't play any offensive snaps. He only played on special teams. Quintez Cephas led the way against the Green Bay Packers, and like Campbell said, he came out and played well, and then he did make some plays for us late. He had 4 receptions, which was a career high for him. He had the big one early, but Dan Campbell does think that some of the trust factor is going to get there with the Jared Goff, and I think we saw some trust from Goff, obviously on the early play, but also on a 4th down play to throw it his way. He liked to match up. He just didn't come up with a catch for us. It left the door open for possibly moving players around, giving guys different positions, playing guys at different spots this week, so there's a chance that guys like Cephas, things like that, move around. He started at X for us against the Green Bay Packers because there was no Tyrell. Khalif Raymond mainly played the Z receiver position. He came in motion a ton. You see some stuff underneath, and then they had Amon-Ra St. Brown is our starting slot in that game, who played in 34 snaps offensively for us. Of course, you have Hawk and you have Swift and guys like that. Kennedy saw 4 snaps towards like the very end of the game, so maybe we see more Tom Kennedy this week. That's very possible. And Trinity Benson was probably the biggest surprise. He only played 24 snaps, which was a decrease from week 1. And after the way the Lions talked about Trinity Benson after week 1, it sounded like he played more. So that one was a little bit surprising. Not super surprising that Cephas played the most at X because we didn't have Tyrell, but it was a little surprising that we saw less snaps from Trinity Benson. So we'll see if the Lions decide to move anything around. St. Brown is their slot. They like him more at slot, so I doubt that he plays much at the outside, if at all. I would like to see more Kadero Hodge, but with the Lions not promoting Geronimo Allison off the practice squad last week, there's probably a good chance they don't do it this week either, but you never know. You never know. I mean, they left things pretty open at this point, so we're not really sure what the receiver unit is going to look like this upcoming week against the Baltimore Ravens. We'll just kind of have to keep an eye on it. This is your latest Lions news. We're going to get to the injury report a little bit later, and then, of course, as I said, last second dose today. Make sure you stop in, check it out. We're going to be talking about the Lions. We're going to be talking about Jamie Collins. We're going to have Rad on the show, so it should be a good time. Thank you, Brad, for watching, and